Okay, so the first step in your cutting board project is to undo the bundling here for the cutting board. And then we're just gonna lay it out and try and figure out what pattern we want. And now this is completely up to you. Obviously we've included some pattern, proven patterns, but you can arrange it however you would like. Toss that to the side. So let's see, when I'm doing this, I want to set all of my good faces in one direction. And the reason for that is you can see there's some blemishes here and then there's this here as well. So I want to pick which side I like better and put that side with all my other liked sides. These markings here, they will not be there when we're done, and that will be sanded out later. So as I'm assessing, I can see, I like these sides, and I can put this blemish on the outside and kind of sand down some of that later. So I'm gonna go like that. And then again, this is my intended design here to just do like that. But you can do whatever you'd like. You can, put one on the outside, which is also nice, but it's up to you. So I just use a straight edge to line it up. And this is what it will look like. And I'm happy with that, so now I'm gonna go ahead and set it up for gluing. So I wanna glue all but one of these pieces of wood. So just for demonstration, I will flip this one, flip this one, flip this one. And I will leave the last one unflipped. So what I'm gonna do is cover each one of these faces with glue, and then this face will stick here, this face will stick here, and so on and so forth. So this face doesn't actually need glue. So when you're doing this, you want to put a nice bead of glue on each piece of wood, just like so. And it's okay to be generous with this because you can never have too much glue because it'll all be squeezed out with the clamps anyways. Now it's always a good practice to have every possible surface area of the joint covered in glue. So I just take my finger and I just cover the entire thing. Now gluing's always the most stressful. You want to move quickly before the glue starts to dry, which you do have some time here, but it's not something you want to go take a break while you're doing this. And for those of you wondering if glue is enough to hold this thing together to stand the test of time, the way this wood glue works is it actually bonds with the fibers of the wood. And this joint created with this glue from wood to wood is actually stronger than the wood itself. So there's really no concern there. So I'll just wipe some extra there. So now all I'm gonna do is flip them up and join everything together. Using my straight edge, I will all right. So now I'll take my first clamp and I'm gonna come about an inch off the end there, and I want to lay this bar flat on the board so it helps keep the surface of the board as flat as possible. And then I want to hand tighten this one here. But you can see the glue starting to squeeze out here. That's good. We're going to wipe out that excess later. And while that one's hand tightened, I want to make sure and go back and line everything up nice and square. The more lined up this is, the less sanding you'll have to do to correct it later. And again, there is no rush here other than you need to get it done right. So the glue is setting right now, but it needs to be The more time you take to have everything lined up and everything flat, it'll save you a lot of time when you go to sand this. So again, I'm gonna do this one just about 1 inch off the end, hand tighten, and this bar is laying flat. You should be able to see the glue start to squeeze out there. And it's not perfectly flat, but that is close enough. Okay, so now I'm gonna take this and flip it over. Now these clamps aren't super tight yet, so you gotta be careful here, otherwise that might happen. Whoopsies. It's okay, not the end of the world. Press these down so that they're up against this bar and nice and flat. See, this is relatively flat. It could be a little better. And again, these aren't the best clamps for this, but this will do the job. And it's just a good learning experience. Get these nice and tight. I feel good about that. It's not perfectly flat, but it'll be fixed later. If you want to avoid what just happened to me, just make sure it's a little bit more tight before you flip it over. Okay. Now this part, you want to make sure, you want to go use a wet paper towel, cloth, or whatever it may be, and wipe off all the excess. When this dries, it's rock solid, and you either have to sand it or scrape it off with some sort of chisel. So we are going to wipe it down. Just making sure everything's nice and tight. So now I'm just wiping away the excess and getting as much of it as I can. The more work you do here, the more you'll be thanking yourself later. Obviously I can't get under here, but I can get close enough. That part I'm just gonna have to deal with later. You're gonna gunk up your cloths pretty quickly, so have some extra ones on standby when you do this. What you want to avoid is smearing the glue out all over the place. You actually want to wipe it off the board, because the glue will still be difficult to remove even if it's just flattened elsewhere. You really just want the glue inside the joint. But you put a lot of extra on it like this, so that when you glue it up, you know that every surface area of that joint is connected with glue. So you have a really strong joint that will never break on you. Make sure you get the ends as well. You can already see the glue starting to dry in certain areas. That's what happens when you don't move quick enough, but again, that will be fixed with sanding, unfortunately. See if I can't recycle one of these. Okay, that's about as good as it's gonna get. You can already see the glue starting to harden here, but again, that's okay. Just, using this wet cloth also kind of gives us a glimpse of what it might look like when the oil's on it, and I think that's really beautiful. This is cherry here and Bacote and oak, so I think it's gonna turn out great. When I'm done, I wanna leave the cutting board with the clamps facing down. The reason for that is there is some glue, residual glue, left on my working area, and there is some glue on the actual face of the cutting board here. Now, if you're using this project board or a cardboard box like you will be using, that glue will stick to that cardboard box. And you could easily remove it, but it'll leave some cardboard residue on there. So I rest it on these actual clamps, and it's okay if it's wobbly a little bit. We already made sure it was flat, So you wanna leave this to dry for 12 hours, and you wanna at least leave it clamped for 2 hours. I just have a habit of just leaving it clamped until it's done. It's perfectly fine to leave this clamped for 12 hours. The glue holds after 2 hours, but you're not supposed to put any pressure on it for 12 hours. So I just leave it clamped and just leave it alone for 12 hours. And once that's done, we'll get to sanding and continue this project. That's your glue up.